Hey guys, I'm Logan Freeman, and this is the Livefree Investors Podcast. I interview investors and business owners who share investment advice so you too can live free. Today, I'm talking with my friend Seth Martin. Seth, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Logan, I am a investor, developer, and an agent down in Nashville, Tennessee. I moved here about 5 years ago. Had already started investing down here a little bit, and have really started to latch my hold into the Nashville market, and also started to look at some other markets. But ultimately, I would say just straight up, I'm a business owner, an investor, and a developer. So,
out of those three that you gave me, which one is your favorite?
Investor, hands down.
Why is that?
It's probably the most hands off as far as physically demanding. It's very just mental, understanding deals, understanding trends and those kind of things, and then just making calculated moves off of that.
So that was my second question. What is the best thing about being an investor? But you've already talked about that. So what about an agent and a developer? What are the best things about those two things?
As an agent, it really gives me a back door to a lot of the projects and things that I'm looking for already. It also helps me with alignment with other potential partners.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, when they're looking at real estate, whether it's an investment or whatever, they're calling a broker and agent first.
That's right.
And, I'm able to kind of parlay those particular conversations usually into potential partnerships or other deals. And then as far as a developer goes, it's really about just being vertically integrated in my business.
Yes.
Being able to cover all bases, because every project and every property always presents its own unique challenges. And it's just very important to be able to kind of wear different hats.
Yeah. Well, I think that, it's interesting because we're both agents in our markets, right? I'm in Kansas City, you're in Nashville, and I do see a lot of symbiotic relationships between being an investor, being an agent, and being a developer. So that was really interesting to talk with you about that. And a lot of people have asked me how to replicate that, right? So I will ask one more follow-up question on what you are doing. If you had a piece of advice to give to somebody that was maybe trying to become an agent, but they also want to be an investor, do they need to become an agent? Should they become licensed? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's a very gray area, first of all. But if I was to say it's all going to be dependent on your own unique situation.
Sure.
However, majority of the people that are getting into real estate for the first time usually have low capital, low network within the business, those kind of things. And so from that perspective, I would 100% recommend becoming an agent, because you're going to get invited to other agent events, things like that, where you can network with other people, pick their brains, and really put yourself in a position to learn the investment game. Being a broker for someone that is a big investor, which is, I've been lucky enough to do that, has probably taught me more about business investment and kept me from making huge mistakes. And that's what we're always in this business to do, as far as an investor, is maximize profits while mitigating risk.
Yes.
So you're trying to do both, and that is a very, very fine line.
Yeah, that is a great point, a really great point to make. Okay, keeping up with current trends and opportunities can be a challenge, and especially with what we're going through right now, and especially with Nashville, with the disaster you guys just went through, and now coronavirus. So, how do you personally stay up to date?
Really, I think it's a twofold thing. One, I expand my network as wide as I can at all times. I'm always networking with people in other markets that maybe mirror Nashville a little bit. Austin is what is called our sister city. They're very similar. I know a bunch of different brokers, developers, and investors in Austin that I'm always networking with, seeing what they're doing, checking out what's going on. The second part of that is I'm always marketing myself.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, people open up to you because they want to be a part of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And doing that, you can recognize trends maybe before they're there. 3 weeks ago when this whole coronavirus thing hit, literally the very next day when they started talking about shutdowns, I knew it happened. I luckily have a wide enough network that I had friends within the National Guard and different things that were saying, listen, it's coming.
Yep.
It's coming. I immediately started pivoting my business the very next day. And I think it's very crucial, is when the crowd is running one direction, you run the other way.
Yeah.
And you will always be ahead.
What did you do? What did you pivot to when you heard about the coronavirus?
Well, we were already, like, within our brokerage side of things, we were already pretty buyer heavy. We networked quite a bit over the last year, trying to find more sellers and more
Sure.
potential opportunities. But what we did is since we were already buyer heavy and we hadn't really focused a ton on our existing database of buyers, we immediately pivoted and started reaching out to every single one of them who has capital, who's looking in during this time, who's going to stay aggressive, who's going to hold up. And we started focusing directly on those clients, because the beauty of that, and the way I foresee this happening, is if we are able to make some of our partners and clients money during this next 12-month period, that's a brag sheet for us.
Yeah.
We can blast that out to the entire database and should be capturing market share, which is what the goal is during this time. The business is contracting, so you need to be expanding around the business that's contracting.
Man, that's awesome. That is great. I love that you're listening to the market. You guys are pivoting. You're being entrepreneurial. That is wonderful. This is your opportunity to promote somebody on the show that you think would be a good fit, right? So I want this to be a social show. So what other successful investors and or business owners like yourself should be on the Livefree podcast?
Well, I really think there's a particular person that I kind of thought about when I saw these questions come across. His name is Tyler Cobble. He's a broker here in town. He actually started his own broker. He's very young. He's about your age, I believe.
Yeah.
And has done really, really well with himself at the Cobble Group. And, has syndicated a few deals on his own, like mostly office and retail space, which is interesting because most people are doing the multifamily syndication right now.
Yep.
And I find it fascinating that he's been able to do that, raise capital for it all on his own, very young guy. And he is literally probably one of the most niched brokers I've ever seen. He really just covers a geographical area of maybe 10 square miles.
Yeah.
That's it. And you would think in the era of expansion on you can touch and reach areas from here to, you could reach across the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are looking at spreading the wide net across geographical areas. He's drilled down. Yeah. He's done such an amazing job on social media. I have tried to model some of my social media after what he's done.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's great. Would love the introduction to have Tyler on the show. Thank you so much for that. Okay, this is the most important question of the podcast. What is your best piece of advice on how to live free?
I think it all boils down to life design, right? What do you want your life to look like? Because that's the true definition of freedom for me.
Yep.
Is it the ability, everybody's different. Is it the ability to work 4 days a week? Is it the ability to not really have a set schedule at all? What is it to you? And then look at that goal and start backwards engineering it. Yep. How much money does that take? How much of that needs to be passive? How much of that's going to be active? How do you transition between the two? And I think if you really take the time to sit down and vision or make a vision of exactly what your life you want it to look like.
Yep.
The rest becomes easy. The rest is just action. Most people think action is the hard part. I don't believe that. I think the exact vision, because we all go into, I want to make $500,000 a year. That's not a vision, or I want to own 10,000 square foot or 100,000 square foot of office space, or whatever it is, whatever you want to do. That's a goal, but that's not really a vision. And if you start with the vision, the goals start plugging themselves in, and then the actions are easy from there.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. It really is. I will plug a book in there. It's called Life in Air. I listened to it on Audible, and it talks about looking at your life from all those different aspects, and I really liked that book.
Life in Air. I'm gonna
Life in Air. Yeah, it was a Bigger Pockets recommendation. Somebody, I think one of the founders, I forget his name, Brandon Turner. That was a big book of that kind of changed his life. So awesome, Seth. Thank you so much, man. This is Logan Freeman with the Live Free Investor Podcast, where investors and business owners share advice so you too can live free. For more insights and ideas on how you can live free, connect and message myself and Seth Martin on LinkedIn. Seth, thanks for joining us today. And until next time, live free.
Thank you so much, Logan.